All right, there we go. Hopefully this stays stable. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Erasmus Expeditions. We are back with session or match, I guess would probably be a better term, match number 3 in our Highlander tournament using the Reflections system, which is based off of a little-known RPG called A Single Moment by Tobie Abad. Definitely go check both of these games out. They're fantastic, and it's really very well for one-on-one player versus player. And we are going to be using it, like I said, to run Highlander. This is a single elimination tournament style game. We have had the 2 previous matches that went down already, both of them last week. Go check them out before you watch this one. Probably won't have too much bearing, but why start in the middle? So before we get officially started, I'm going to toss things over to the players. Before I do that, just in case they're a little dodgy, this is an adult channel. These are adults that are playing. Language is probably going to be bad in this game. And let's face it, it's a game about cutting somebody's head off. So it's going to get gruesome and gory and mature. And if that's the kind of stuff that bothers you, then you really just should go watch something else. Seriously. So without further ado, I'm going to toss it over to these fine young gentlemen. First off, we have Keel, not Kyle, but Keel.
Hey, awesome to be here. Thanks so much for having me, Jeremy. It's awesome to finally be in one of the games that you're running, even though it's sort of facilitating rather than running a standard game. But I'll take it. This is awesome. And awesome to be going toe-to-toe against the Jarl himself. I've played in a couple of games that Lloyd has run, but this will be the first time that I've been playing with him, especially against him. So looking forward to it. The first 2 sessions were killer, and looking forward to having some fun with this and seeing how it goes.
Absolutely, man. And I'm really, really excited to finally get you on the channel. Even though, like you said, it's a little bit different than normal, but maybe this is just the gateway drug. The first one's free. All right. That brings us to the Jarl himself.
Hello. I'm Lloyd. I run a channel called Jarl DM. I'm very excited for this. I'm glad that my first enemy is a little dweeb like Keel and not somebody tough, so that's good. Yeah, and I'm really happy every time I get to be on your channel. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. It's good to have you back. My dogs are going bananas, so I apologize. Anything else I need to cover? You should be able to find the links to channels in the description of this video. If they did not mention it there, I can't remember if you have one, Keel.
It's empty at the moment, but I'm going to be putting some content up there soon, hopefully. So keep me honest and go and subscribe.
There you go. And hopefully I have the link to that in there. If not, send it to me and I'll put it in there. Cool. If you guys don't have any questions, then I think we can go ahead and go over the rules, as light as they are. Cool. So there's pretty much only 3 rules to this game, aside from the dice rolling mechanic that kind of happens at the end. The first rule is the rule of action, which applies to all the situations that happen within a scene. And that rule is that if someone speaks something into existence, you cannot negate it. It has to be true. You can come up with all kinds of crazy reasons as to why it might be true, but you can't undo it. The second rule is one player cannot force the other to take actions. You can have things happen to them, but you can't have them do something for the other player. The third rule is the characters cannot die until the final duel. Obviously, they could die, just not their final death. So, yeah, the 5th and final scene will play out a little bit differently than the others. It'll lead straight into the duel. So what we do first is we go over the prologue. We kind of discuss where this duel is happening. And then we'll go back in time and we'll play through 5 scenes that will color the relationship that the two of you have had with one another that led to this final duel. And along the way, you will pick objectives for each of the scenes, and determined by whether or not you achieve those objectives in the scene, you will earn dice. If you achieve your objective, you earn a specific number of dice to be kind of set aside to the end. If you fail to achieve your objective, you will earn something called hatred dice, which is a slightly separate pool of dice. And then at the very, very end, you will decide whether or not to use your hatred dice or to let them go, because it's kind of a gamble to use them. All right. Do you guys have any questions? Names that you want to call me?
Just baby.
Always.
Legend.
I will also accept baby legend. No. All right. Let's see here. For anybody who might be tuning in this evening, thank you very, very much. Looks like we've got a few folks kicking around. All right. Cool. Where is my window? There's my window. All right. Are you guys ready? Here we go. From the dawn of time we came, moving slowly down through the centuries, living many secret lives. In the days before memory, there were the Immortals. We were with you then. We are with you now. Throughout the history of men, there has been a secret war waged by powerful beings known as the Immortals. Most of these beings live out normal lives with no knowledge of their true nature, their true power. But each of them carries within themselves the seed of their immortality, which is only triggered upon death by unnatural and violent causes. It is only when they experience this first death that they become immortal. Immortals can only be truly killed by decapitation. And when one immortal decapitates another, the winner of their battle receives a transfer of power from the deceased. This transfer of knowledge and experience is called the Quickening. Eventually, all immortals must cross blades and do battle until there is only one left alive. The survivor will receive the prize, which enables its winner to gain unlimited knowledge of the universe. In the end, there can be only one. We start first with the prologue. The prologue sequence in Reflections is stated at the beginning of the game and at the finale. It's going to start with both of you facing each other, ready to have your final duel and recounting the events that brought them to this moment. Each player will read aloud the first part of the statement and then give their answer immediately following. This call and response is how you will set the scene for our upcoming story. So between the two of you, you can decide who is player one and who is player two, found on the character sheet. Take us through the prologue.
You want to roll dice?
If you're happy being one,
Okay.
I'm all good with that.
Okay. Our paths first crossed when the heathen took the city of Acre from us in the Holy Land.
I'll have to ask you where that is. Now we stand upon the edge of a stone quarry, abandoned and empty.
I remember when you were hopeful and kind to me.
This feud started when you denied me what was rightfully mine.
My name is Leopold. I am... What goes here?
Be like, you know, a jaded lover. I am
Okay, I got you.
forever vengeful.
Yep. My name is Leopold von Wolfsburg. I am heartbroken, and I'm here for your head.
My name is Henri Manet. I am at my end, but the prize will still be mine.
There can be only one.
There can be only one.
Excellent. Well done, guys.
Synchronicity.
I am super looking forward to this already. I just watched Nightfall, so I'm all about like knights in Jerusalem and all kinds of shit. So I'm in this to win it. I mean, never mind. So we have Henri and Leopold. Excellent. So are you guys ready for the first scene? You ready to do this? All right, boys and girls, hang on tight. The first scene is the first death. This is the time you first met. You did not know each other before, but one of you experienced their first death, and somehow you found one another. You may not have trusted each other at first, but you earned that trust. Perhaps you did afterward for decades or even centuries, but your fates were linked forever at this moment. Also think about who you are and in what period of history this takes place. Perhaps one of you became the first teacher to the other, imparting the oral traditions and rules of being an immortal. This scene should be about learning what it is to be an immortal. So if you gentlemen would, oops, sorry about that. Look over the objectives, determine which of those you would like to try to accomplish in this scene. Send them to me secretively in our other chat. And once I have both of them, you are free to start the scene. All right, I have them both. So whenever you gentlemen are ready, you can kick us off.
So this is when one of us first dies and becomes an immortal, and the other one already was, presumably. So since our paths first crossed, when the heathen took Akka, the Holy Land city. That's what I scribbled.
Yep.
What do you reckon? I think Leopold may have been an immortal already. Is that what you were thinking?
I'm easy. Yeah, we can go with that.
Yeah.
My assumption is either like one of us is probably a knight at the time. Whichever one was immortal first would have been the knight, and the other could also be like a knight, but it could also be a situation where like there's like a person in the siege. It's like being besieged by Saladin and like Muslim forces and stuff like that, and people are trying to escape, and it's like a siege.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I think yeah, we can both be knights. That sounds good. I'm not at all a history buff, so be happy to take your guidance.
Yeah, it's like Crusades era, you know?
Yeah, cool. So, so maybe then I was thinking, Henri maybe has been wounded. Maybe actually earlier on during the siege, and it's become infected. He's got a badly infected leg wound. But he's still dragging himself around and helping defend, refusing bed rest and things like that. And what would they maybe be up on? What would like sort of the front line be?
I guess the walls at this stage, unless they've already broken through. So it's probably like a case of standing up there, throwing stuff down at people, like firing bows and trying to like get control in the city, I would say. Or maybe they've broken through. That might be more exciting. And if you're resting and like wounded, then maybe you're like in a chapter house or a temple or something. They don't call them temple, they call them churches in Christianity, right? In a church or something, resting and like trying to recover. That might make sense.
Well, since this is our first meeting, yeah, maybe we're both on the same side, fighting for the same, defending the same cause. And Henri's in the infirmary or whatever, getting resting up, and yeah, they break through and basically storm that section. And you're part of the forces that come in, and Leopold comes and tries to defend that.
So I guess there would be like priests and nuns like screaming as like forces of Saladin like run in and start to like tear the place apart. You can hear screaming outside, but also you can hear this like laughter, this like of like this is Leopold just laughing like a maniac as he's like he knows that he can't die, and so he like fights with this sort of comedic casual sort of nature. And so I think maybe the first time that you see him is like one of these dudes is like run in, he's like looking around the infirmary and he sees like a valuable knight, maybe in like a surcoat, which could be you, and he like gets this disgusting grin in his face, and then Leopold like walks in behind and shanks him.
And Henri has his sword out by that point, pointed at the intruder, but is relieved to see the tip of Leopold's blade come through and fell the guy. And he sort of rests his weary arm and grimaces and holds his leg again. They've broken through?
So it would appear.
Just imagine there's chaos of the nurses or nuns screaming and trying to pack up and escape, and maybe there's a couple of points of entrance, and there's sort of scuffling just outside one or two of the doorways. And Henri tries to get himself up, but just calls out in pain. Ah! Ah! I cannot run.
That's unfortunate for you. As like another guy comes in, he'll like grab him and like smash his helmet into his face, and like throw him to the side, and then he'll like you'll see like a curved blade like bang against the plate of his chest, and then he'll like grab another one and like he's just like loving it. He's finding it very funny, and then like when that's happened, he'll like turn back around to you. Come on, up you get.
The hell is wrong with you? He's just sort of muttering to himself or screaming to himself now as he tries to psych himself up to get out and tries to take on some of the energy and the vigor that Leopold's showing here.
He's gonna like walk further back into the room, like away from the door, and he's gonna like walk over to you and look at the wound. It's like obviously bad, and it like smells, and he'll like wrinkle his nose, and he'll like flip up the helmet. Well, that's not good. I can get you out of here alive. I think. And he'll like see like this like fine necklace that you wear, like of the cross, and he'll like grin at it. Fair price.
A price. And as an enemy rushes in and charges towards them, screaming, swinging his sword, and Henri sort of twists to the side and thrusts his blade into him and sort of shoves him away. Fine, name your price after we're out. But I'll need something from you as well, he says as he eyes the insignia on your not your uniform. Well, I suppose it is your uniform. Yeah, maybe you've got like a rank marking or something like that.
You're in no position to bargain, my friend. But this, and he'll like pick up the necklace and then like tighten his fist around it and like pull it off. This, I'll get you out. I'm chosen by God, he'll say, and he'll do this like bow. I promise.
And with this, just with this man's bearing, given the chaos, you know, he's seen battle, and he's quite young, but he's seen battle, and he's seen more experienced soldiers and knights hold their nerve and things like that, but never anything like what he's seeing from Leopold right now. So he kind of believes that to an extent, you know, that he's chosen by God. So and he sort of assesses. He looks at both the doorways. Fine, get me out of here.
Excellent. And he'll like smile, like brown teeth, and will like take the necklace and he'll stuff it into the pocket of his surcoat, and then he'll like look around, and he'll spy like the end of the infirmary. There's like an altar, and he'll like walk over there, and he'll like take one of these like silver candlesticks and just like pick it up, and the sword in the other hand, and then he'll like walk over to you. All right, with me, and he'll like put one of your arms around his shoulder.
The chosen man of God must steal from our Lord. He says,
as he's moving. It's going to me or it's going to Salah ad-Din, and I know which one I'd rather have having it. He'll say that casually, but he definitely doesn't believe it. Like he just he's barely a Christian. Like he just like knows it's convenient to be, and so he'll like help you a little bit out towards the door. And there's just like chaos outside. Everywhere that you look, there's like missiles coming in over the walls of like trebuchets, and like arrows raining, and like people screaming, and like there's loads of civilians everywhere running around, and like people of our side, people of their side, like fighting all over the place. It's just like chaos.
Yeah, the screaming and the thundering of the stones crumbling walls and splattering civilians, knights alike. As we make our dash through, and perhaps we get to a wall where there's a sort of stairwell going down, and Henri, in his haste, sort of stumbles, and with his injured leg, stumbles and starts tumbling forward down the stairwell a little bit. And I like to think somehow he maybe Leopold maybe was still holding the necklace, or the valuable necklace, in his hand, and Henri sort of catches a finger on it as he's sort of falling, trying to stop himself from just stumbling forwards, and it falls down partially down the stairwell with him.
Yeah, he'll follow, like shaking his head, like French, and then we're like down the stairs, and he's about to like step down and help you, and there's a bunch of people coming from like our left in a corridor, and you can see like all these dudes, all these like Islamic warriors coming, and then like more from the other direction, but there's one in the other direction that he can feel something from. And so he just like, without saying anything, like drops you and the necklace and like walks towards this man when there are like a great many of them coming from the other direction, seemingly abandoning you.
And Henri's in too much pain and panic to notice because he's stumbling down and he's crumpled over himself, and his already ruined leg has been snapped down. The shin bone is snapped, and he's crying out in pain. And but he sees that he's got the necklace there next to him, and he just cries out, "Stranger, cannot leave me. You want this necklace, huh? Ah!" Just echoing up through this stairwell chamber.
Yeah, he like doesn't hear it. He can just hear like this, like in his mind, this like boom, 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 boom. As he like looks at this other guy who also has like a fine blade, and they begin to like circle each other. He's like from the Muslim army, and they begin to like circle each other, and all thoughts of like this guy and his stupid necklace are like gone from Leopold's head as like his true purpose is revealed. Yeah, and he just like cannot hear you or will not.
Tries he might, Henri can't stand himself up properly. He sort of clambers up, leaning against the wall, and tries to keep making his way down to just escape just on his own. That's his best chance, he reckons, in the state that he's in. And so he stumbles further down, necklace in hand, sword in the other, and reaches the bottom of the stairwell. And he feels the blackness taking over from the pain and from possibly blood loss as well. And so he crawls himself around, hides himself sort of under the stairwell as best he can at the bottom of this chamber, hoping that he's still going to be alive when the fighting stops.
So Leopold will like fight this man, and it like seems like a blur to him, like they always do, particularly in this sort of circumstance. And like his fighting style is very quick, but Leopold's is like slow, ponderous, and heavily armored. And so like a blow comes towards him that should have killed him, but it's like caught on the pauldron, and like protects his neck, like bashes it aside and like grabs the other guy and runs him through and like kicks him to the ground, and then finally like hacks like three. It takes 3 good hacks to like get through the head, and then he'll like pull it and like fling it off the wall, and then we'll like feel whatever that glory is that he's only felt once before, but it's like instinctual to him. And when that's done, finally he'll like look around for that lovely likeness and the person that belongs to it, and he'll like follow the trail of blood, I imagine, which is like not hard to follow, that Henri has left behind, and like find him maybe like on the ground, looking dead, maybe has been stabbed by like a nearby spear. Like even so as he's on the ground, we'll like walk over and like look down and like shrug, like that's a shame. And he'll begin to like rifle through his things and like try and find the necklace and pull it off him. And
he fucking stinks. So you're covered in blood. You sort of you stink a bit yourself, but this guy's leg has been sort of rotting for a number of days or longer now. So the smell's just putrid. And I like to think that you don't find the necklace. Whoever came in and did him in, stabbed him, saw that it was there. It was easy pickings, didn't have to rifle through, nicked off with it. And maybe you just find like a silver pocket mirror, quite ornate, something like that you would think to take valuable enough. And as you get it and you open it up and you see, looking at your own little reflection in the round pocket mirror. He splutters back to life, and you see your own eyes widen briefly in the reflection of the mirror as Henri grasps your arm that's holding it and pulls it down, falling out of your hand, getting covered in blood.
Yeah, he looks down and like has that moment of like, well, this would be an easy one. Like figuring it out and seeing, but then thinking like, someone has to tell me what the situation was, and someone has to tell this guy. And so he'll like drop the mirror and like put his hand in your chest and like try and lift you up to standing. Welcome back.
I was dead. I should be dead. Just as he assesses himself, ruined leg, like blood everywhere, clearly huge, deep punctures in his vital organs. As he sort of feels them over, and looks at you wide-eyed, and looks down at his heavy cavalry saber that was hidden enough under the stairwell that his would-be murderer didn't do away with it, and the silver mirror shattered now, covered in blood.
Looks like you're chosen too.
All he can do is just laugh hysterically. What else can you do in that situation? And he sort of claps you on the shoulder as he's putting almost all of his weight on you. I'm sure it's not much of a problem. You're holding him upright. And he just gestures down to his effects, his blade, and leaves the shattered mirror.
I was just going to rob you, but I think now I will take you with me. I think it's time to leave the Holy Land. What do you think?
Let's get the hell out of here.
Yes, you did.
The scene? It kind of feels like it's
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well done, guys. Okay, so if you would please share with the class what your objective was that you set out and whether or not you think you achieved that.
Okay, so I wanted that necklace and I didn't get it.
Oh, you did? Oh, man. The old 1, 2, 3. Mine was also convince Leopold to give me a personal item, which I did not manage to do at all. I was on the back foot. That whole time.
That thing bounced back and forth several times. I was like, oh, who's going to get it?
I thought about it, dragging the scene out for another 2 minutes to try and get a mirror replacement off of Leopold.
Okay, so in that case, what that means is that instead of normal dice, each one of you is going to earn 1 hatred die. All right. This is going to get interesting, I think. Okay. You guys ready for scene 2? Cool. Here we go. Scene 2 is strength in numbers. Immortal duels are always one-on-one. Interference is forbidden, even on behalf of a friend or lover. But the quickening leaves an immortal weak and nearly defenseless. For this reason, many travel together in pairs, so that should one of them fall to a challenger, the second can take immediate revenge. This is usually enough to discourage immortals from issuing challenges. For a time, you swore your sword to one another, to take revenge on any challenger that may succeed where your friend failed. In this scene, you should each establish the trust that your current relationship is built upon. Once again, look over your objectives. Choose one for yourself. Shoot on over to me, and then when we you can start.
Yeah, I think we lost him.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Be right back, folks.
I can hear
Hey.
clapping.
That was me
Hello?
clicking along to the to the intermission tune.
You hear me?
Yeah, a bit robot-y. Uh-oh. Well, that's not good, is it?
No. Merde. Okay, he might just leave and rejoin again, and let's see how we go.
That was funny with the necklace. I could just like feel it. Couldn't get it. Hey, you're back.
Man. Well, I only. Hey.
Am I actually back?
Yep. Seems fine now.
Your double is still showing up as muted there, but this one's working fine, so not an issue.
It'll probably hang up the other one in just a minute.
Oh yeah.
I hope. Sorry about that, everybody. I have no idea what's going on with my internet tonight. Anywho, are you guys okay? I have your objectives for scene 2. Awesome. So whenever you guys are ready.
So I reckon we're back in Europe, most likely. After the Crusades, maybe like a few years have gone by. France or Germany, I guess, one of the two. What do you reckon?
Let's go France, since that's where Henri's from.
Okay. Are you with your family? Do you have one? Well, I guess everyone has one.
Yeah. Just Henri's mother. He's lost all of his siblings to wars, and his father as well. So, yeah, I'd say maybe, yeah, let's go to the capital. Let's go big.
Okay.
So in Paris, and let's continue on the sort of holy path that we're on. I'd say, and say that we're so yeah, we went back to Europe. We went to Henri's homeland afterwards. To would there be any business there for any knightly business there for us? I'm not.
I think there's always money for people who are good with swords in the Middle Ages, I reckon, you know? So like,
yeah,
it's probably not like anything particularly knightly, but it's probably like roughing up people in the city and like and like things like that. I would imagine, and like tournaments and all that sort of stuff. I don't really know too much about like this time period outside of the Holy Land.
Yeah, let's just go with that stuff then. Yeah, let's say that given our particular skills and inability to die, perhaps we've been doing a bit of a racket with some tournaments then.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
So maybe we're like practicing, training. You probably do that a lot in your in like the courtyard of like the little. I guess it would be like a kind of like a tenement house, I suppose, where your mother lives, unless you're like wealthy. Well, actually, if you're not, you're wealthy, so it's more likely to be like the courtyard of your estate, you know. And we can like have a practice there, which we would do probably every day.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. And so yeah, I suppose that can be sort of the crux of what we've got going on in this part of our journey is, training daily and participating in tournaments maybe a couple of times a week.
How do you actually thinking, like, how do you feel about it being later, like a few hundred years later? Because I think
awesome.
because Jeremy just said it here, like part of the joy of this game is that you can like jump to all these different times.
Yeah, actually, that's what I had in mind when I was brainstorming sort of how we're going to do this. Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to do some jumps. Yeah.
Yeah. You said French Revolution. That might be a cool time.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Awesome. All right. So could that same sort of setup be relevant?
Yeah, I think it would be a more like dueling culture because that was like big in like at the time of the revolution and like particularly in Germany and stuff. We could be like in some scummy cafe with like a bunch of like intellectuals and Bolsheviks like hanging around as they like students and stuff as they're like, oh, we have to put an end to this. And
yeah, perfect. Let's do it. That sounds good. I like to think, I like the idea that we had of sort of playing a little bit of a racket and sort of maybe going out of our way to start duels probably more often than we necessarily need to. And I don't know what could we gain from that, I suppose. And then maybe Henri's mother comes in, and this is part of the racket that we have. She sort of comes in and convinces the other party to just pay her, or pay us to call off the duel or something like that. Because
so someone we know, right? Because your mother would be well dead, I guess, if it's a few hundred years later. Would it be some?
Of course, yeah.
Unless she's also. Yeah, so I guess it's like a hookup, some like local woman that we've become acquainted with. Could be like one of your great descendants or something.
Yeah, cool. All right, Mary. All right. So we're in a sort of seedy cafe. And would there, I just imagine French Revolution in Paris. There's always fighting in the streets. Like I'm really bad with imagining these kind of things. Like, what's the sort of tone of the city? Do you know, or let's say like
brutal poverty. If you've ever seen Les Mis, like it's like brutal poverty. The people are just like desperate, and like there's a real sort of simmering anger against like the upper classes and the aristocracy and stuff like that.
People are like boiling their shoes and eating cats and.
Okay, yeah. So maybe we're in there making a bit of a show of our wealth, and if that's the sort of side of things that we're on.
I hadn't even thought about being on the side of the bad guys, but I love that. Damn peasants. So maybe here's a dumb thing. How about we frequently walk through the like poor parts of town, like dressed in finery, and like await people to like start shit with us, and then just like batter them.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so we're like having a walk. I guess we both would have like canes at this stage. You'd probably have to have like a sword cane or something, wouldn't you, as an immortal? In like those like fantastic military jackets that they wore in like the 1700s, and like the hair all done and all this sort of stuff, like walking with like a pinky out on the cane, incredibly sort of like genteel, as is the style at the time, just like walking. And Leopold will like wrinkle his nose in disgust at the people all around. You know, this racket, this thing that we do, it lacks any of the excitement that I'm used to. It's been a few years now, and I think I'm bored of it.
Well, you could always challenge one of them to chopping off your head, duel.
What challenge are these malnourished things? Nothing. To go somewhere where there's more. This is... And you spend too much time with that woman. She's not good for you.
She is good for me, I think. She shows me the finer things, the finest things in life. You know?
You know it cannot end well. She already wonders. It's been 10 years and she wonders. You do not age.
His face sort of goes a little bit more somber as he continues walking forward. Doesn't look at you, but just says as he's pacing forward, never does end well.
This is why you cannot get attached. We've been through this so many times, Henri. You have a soft heart.
And I've been a good influence on you, though, huh? Over these centuries, I remember when we first met. You saved my life. You had a bloodlust then. Still continues to this day, perhaps in a different way. But has not my kind heart softened your own?
I think very probably, yes. But I wasn't trying to save you. I was trying to rob you. Let's remember that. And he'll clap you on the shoulder.
I will never forget that. And where is my mother's necklace now, huh?
Who knows? It's a good question. One of those, what did we used to call them? Heathens. One of them took it, I suppose.
Yes. Those heathens. God, they put up a good fight, huh? That is what you're missing, I think. Hmm?
Yes. It's easy. Everything's easy. There's no danger. When's the last time we even saw one of our kind?
Perhaps you have killed them all. In France, at least.
Not all of them.
Come now. We still have so much to do together. And he sort of strokes a hand down your cheek.
You're right. You're right. But we should leave soon, I think. This city, only bad things can happen here. This festering, this bubbling of these pros slavering for the blood of the aristocrat. It will not go well for us.
Yes, can feel it. It is about to bubble over.
So we should pack up our things and go. And leave that woman behind and all the people here behind.
And as they continue walking, getting glares and filthy looks and possibly even shouts of abuse from some of the poverty-stricken folks around here. He thinks for a moment. He thinks aloud. You never like any of my companions. Hmm? Perhaps you are right. Perhaps it is time that I start pursuing different endeavors. Or at least leave this woman behind before she catches on and we have to do what we did 40 years ago.
I didn't like doing that, and you didn't like doing that. I didn't like doing that for you. It's no good. It's no good. And I like them just fine. They're nice women. That's not the question. The question is why you keep getting attached when you know that they will die and you will not.
Because what is the purpose of living for hundreds of years longer? Living such a lifetime without having such a life within it.
Fucking French people. He'll roll his eyes and the sentimentality of it all. What is the point? Power and money. This is the point. Victory. These are the things that I've always sought. And you, find some peasant strumpet to spend 10 years with. He'll like throw his hand over his shoulder, like, bah.
You act as though I've taught you nothing. Huh? There is more to life than winning, and killing, and stealing, and lying. Leopold. And he stops and sort of turns you to face him a little bit more. Where then shall we go? How will I live this life? What else can I do if I am not enjoying one of its most profound pleasures, love?
One ancient European capital is the same as all of the other ancient European capitals. Paris is Vienna, is London, they're all the fucking same. But there's other places that we can go that are far away. I have never been across the ocean, and neither have you.
You're talking about the New World.
He shrugs. Apparently there's adventure there, parts of it not even discovered.
You know, I do like the sound of that.
That's what I want. Things that no one else has seen, things that no one else has done.
Let's do it then. There's nothing for me here in Paris, in France, in Europe.
Yes, this is the old world. Let's have a look at the new one, I think. He'll shrug. And he'll see like some peasant looking at him, and he'll like stare him down with this look, and he'll like say something rude in French. And Leopold will like look at Henri with this like look of like, and he'll like turn around to look at this guy and just begin berating him, just incredibly loudly and rudely in the way that only like someone who's extremely rich and like very privileged can do.
And I think that's kind of...
Yeah.
I'm happy to call it a scene, yeah, if you are, Lloyd.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well done, guys. All right, so if you would each let us know what your objective was and whether or not you accomplished it.
So mine was convince your rival to give you some advice. I feel like I accomplished that one.
Yep, for sure.
I think so.
I wanted to convince you to abandon someone you love.
Likewise, I think accomplished.
Yep.
All right. So, excuse me. Convince your rival to abandon something or someone they love. So, Leopold has earned 4 dice. And Keel, convince your rival to give you some advice. Henri has earned 2 dice. So I have 4 and 1 for you, Lloyd, and 2 and 1 for you so far, Keel. Cool. All right, you guys ready for scene number 3?
Yep.
Let's do it.
All right, scene 3 is the bond is broken. The players describe the moment when this conflict first began to manifest in earnest. This could be where one of you directly betrayed the other. Perhaps it was driven by jealousy or mistrust. Perhaps it was born simply out of a misunderstanding. Pay special attention to the circumstances leading up to the situation. Could there have been another choice? If yes, explore what that choice could have been. If there was no other choice, why is it that neither of you can now let it go? Please look over the objectives. Send me your choice. And then when you are ready, take us away.
So what do you reckon? When is it now?
So I just did a quick little Google. It's like end of like 1799 or so when the French Revolution ended. So should we skip another 100 years? We got another few scenes to go. So
yeah, we could skip to like American Civil War time, or like Wild West, sort of that kind of thing?
Yeah, great.
I always think that those are concurrent, but I'm not sure if they actually are. I don't really know.
I think the Wild West came first. I think.
It's kind of all around, I think.
Yeah, the Wild West certainly lasted past the Civil War.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Okay, so maybe we're like in some like disgusting backwater town that we've like called home for a while now, like way out in the frontier. It's like pretty lawless and like miserable, and like there's like no one has any teeth, and it's like like dudes with black hats and white hats and all that sort of stuff, like way out in the middle of nowhere. It's called something like Independence, or like
yeah, I like it. And so so we've both been in the New World together over in America for a good handful of decades now, I suppose. Nearly a century or more, or less.
Yeah.
But yeah, really good chunk of time. So we've established, and it's for a generation or two, I suppose, of people sort of living and dying while we've continued on. So I imagine more that we would have been during that time sort of traveling around a bit more than establishing anywhere, especially with the goals and desires that that Leopold has, that we both have, really. So have we gone down the straight and narrow a bit more now that we're over here, do you think? Or
yeah, maybe. I think like we probably have to start gaining money in a more like traditional way, I suppose. So maybe it's like a case that we're bounty hunters, or like because I just think like if you're immortal, you're so good at all those jobs, like all those like dangerous sort of, and it's just like you're naturally inclined to go that way. Something like sheriff and deputy somewhere in like a middle of nowhere.
Yeah, awesome. I love the bounty hunter idea.
Okay.
And I'd like to think, that we've obviously been very successful at that. And maybe the bounty that we're after at the moment is someone who's well reputed to have survived many, many lethal wounds.
Yes.
And, he's a notorious train thief or something like that. And so maybe we're somewhere in the middle of nowhere with a single train line running along, just the vast open spaces with mountains around. And we've basically tracked him here, and we basically suspect that this train that's about to come up shortly is going to be his next target.
Cool.
And we're overlooking the train where it comes, bends near to us, near to the mountains, and we're sort of up a little bit for a vantage point, but low enough that we can jump down on our horses and go in.
Cool. That sounds good to me. So probably like sitting around waiting, smoking hand-rolled cigarettes, or like chewing tobacco, since you can't die. It's probably like I would imagine that if you know someone for like 300 years or more, you get very good at comfortable silences. Like you would just have to, And so there's probably like a long time that goes by where no one says anything.
Yeah, it's just the sound of the as we're both chewing. Sorry for people that are sensitive to those kind of noises. And just chewing and spitting for maybe a good like 2 or 3 hours while we were waiting for the next train to come. And in some of the low shrubland over on the plain, we can sort of see a dust cloud sort of kicking up, as if there's some sort of movement over there. And Henri will point it out. Like you say, being together for a few hundred years now, we know each other. We're so in sync in terms of thoughts and that kind of thing. We probably both spot it at the same time, and Henri just gestures over, and you instantly know. I reckon that's him over there, him and his crew.
So, if he is what we think he is, you or me?
Well, let's see now. I have taken 3 heads, and you have taken, let's see,
7.
Counting in French. I think it is my turn again, no? How about you give me 2 minutes?
Okay, 2 minutes.
And if I need you to step in, you will know.
He'll smile. He knows that's not allowed, but they always kind of joke about it, that they'll help each other if it comes to it. It luckily never has.
And then in the distance, hear the steam train and see the plume of smoke coming off it, and hear it in the distance, gradually getting closer.
Yeah, Leopold will check the gun at his side, and then at the other side, and then we'll reach behind him and make sure the sword is secure. He travels with the sword. I guess they both do. The Leopold's is a medieval sword that looks really out of place, but it's from a long, long time ago, and he would never change it. And so it's this big, heavy sort of cross-hilted, really obviously a knight's sword, and definitely not a sword from the Wild West. But he takes it with him before he goes.
Awesome. Yeah, Henri's got he's still got his old cavalry saber at his hip, and he's got a shotgun over his back, and 2 pistols holstered at his sides as well. And as the train urges closer, we hear in the distance, "Yeah!" and all of the what's his name? Let's give this guy a name.
Oh yeah, what's a good something biblical feels very wild. Oh, Billy's good. Yeah, yep.
Billy Goldtooth.
Yes.
So Billy Goldtooth and his crew spring into action. The steam plume from the train and the dust plume from their horses' feet gradually get closer together as the crew charges towards the train. But I think as soon as as they get closer, Henri urges his horse into action and makes his way down the mountainside there.
Yeah, so we ride towards them with the guns out, I suppose, and start to fire at the people around him. I guess we know which one he is. We can feel it, and we'll shoot some of the other guys as we approach. As the train is coming alarmingly close.
Yeah, Henri's popping off shots from his pistol. Taking out the lackeys as they get closer as well. And I think by this point, obviously they know they're not alone. They've got company, and so the objective turns to us to dispatch us before they can then return to robbing the train. And how the hell did they used to get on these things? Did they make the train stop and then get on, or
Yeah, they'd ride alongside. Yeah, they would ride alongside and leap, I guess, from the horse onto the train.
Perfect. Okay, so
we're probably on 2 sides of the train. We're on one side and they're on the other, and we're both, and there's an open carriage up ahead where we're intending to hop off.
Yeah, perfect. And I like to think on the side that you're on the side that Leopold's on, so the side of the plains. Henri's on between the train and the mountains, I think, the sort of the closest side that they came from. And Billy Goldtooth is on your side, in front of you, like you're trying to sort of beat him to the open carriage that we're both racing towards. And I think, let's say we've dispatched pretty much all this crew by this point.
Yeah, and like Leopold, like knows that it's your turn, but he's like riding next to this guy, or like very close to him. He doesn't want him to get away, and he like thinks, like he knows that you wouldn't do what he's about to do, but you are not, Leopold. And so he like shouts out at Billy, like the challenge, which has to be accepted, I suppose. He'll like shout out at him, and he'll like look over his shoulder, sort of like, and I guess he would know as well, or he would feel it, the like call. And so as we're like riding, like Leopold will stand up in the saddle and then like leap with like a roll into the train carriage and await Billy to join him.
Yeah, and I'd say maybe that because of the curve of the train line, Henri's got a lot more distance to sort of cover and try and close in to catch up. So you've probably got a good few minutes before he's going to be able to catch up and get in. So Leopold and Billy will probably be in there together for a good few minutes at least. So.
Yeah, and Leopold knows that like now that he's like issued the challenge, he's going to have to fight this guy, and that like you can't just expect him to wait for you, because he's not going to. And so like they'll circle each other, and he'll like have these thoughts about like, this was like a bad thing to do. It was rude, and it's like greedy is what it is. But he knows in the end that like there's only one. It's got to be someone. He wants it to be him, and so every head that you take helps you get to that final point. And so I think that he like he doesn't feel good about it, but he makes the decision deliberately to like challenge Billy instead of you, even though it's only one head. They all add up as far as Leopold's concerned. And so he'll like circle in the carriage with him for like a few minutes, and like maybe as you're like riding up and like just about to get there, like there's a like some of the windows on the train like and like you'll find Leopold like on his knees, like exhausted and shaking, and Billy headless. Maybe it even rolls out of the carriage and like dum, 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 thunders under your horse's hooves.
Yeah, just as Henri's just getting up to, close enough to the carriage. Yeah, I think he sees the head roll off, and his chest just has this surge of sort of anger, betrayal, frustration, and he just kind of feels he's very surprised and hurt as he urges on his horse, and it's now on a straight, so he's finally able to sort of catch up, and he clambers himself up into the carriage, sees Billy's headless corpse laying there, and Leopold probably standing up now with blade in hand, blood slicking it. And he just takes a few moments to try and catch his breath and take in the scene and just make sure he's actually seeing what he is actually seeing here. And it's a long enough silence as he's catching his breath and just sort of staring between Billy's headless corpse and Leopold that Leopold maybe would speak first. It's that long of a silence.
I think it's like a nice contrast to the comfortable silence that they had before the train arrived. Now there's like a very uncomfortable one between them. Leopold like overwhelmed by the quickening will like lean on his sword and then eventually like stand up straight. It had to be me. We were in the train together. You know how this works. And he'll like look at him sort of sadly.
So it was to be him or you. This is what it comes down to. This is why it was okay. Look how long I was riding beside the train. You could have let him get on and me issue the challenge.
I could have. But I'm not you.
3 to 8 now!
It doesn't matter what the numbers is. You know, at the end, there's only one number that matters. We kid ourselves with this. This fraternity, this love. It all has to go by the wayside eventually. You are my friend, a brother, closer even than a brother. But every head matters.
Brother. Do you know why I filled the centuries with a countless string of women? Knowing that I would always lose them. Knowing no matter how much I loved them, they would always be taken from me. There can be only one in our world. For me, it's always been you. You have always been my one. And this betrayal, it was you who taught me these rules.
There will be more.
There will not be more. Not together.
Over this? How many hundreds of years over this? Some hillbilly New World idiot? He wasn't worthy. You wouldn't have gotten anything good from it. He was weak.
Yet he comes up and grabs you by the scruff of your shirt. Don't give two shits about hillbilly Goldtooth. Yes, we've had 300 years of trust built. This is not nothing. And I can feel, you can surely feel it too, I can feel that the more of these immortals that we remove from the world, something is getting closer. An end. It draws near, Leopold. And I've always known in my heart that it came down to you and I being the last two on Earth. One of us would have to take the head of the other. I just cannot face that.
It won't be us two. Can't be. You're too soft. You know that. You've always been soft. That's not a bad thing. Admirable,
Not
really.
Admirable, yes. Well, my softness has certainly tempered you over the centuries, but do not mistake my love for you as weakness, as softness. When it comes down to us, one doing away with the other, whether we're the last two or not, I don't give a fuck. I will take your head, because if I cannot have you, nobody can. And he just steps out of the moving train.
I feel like that's probably a scene with it, actually.
Oh, great. Yep.
Whew.
God.
Oh, heartbroken.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. All right. So if you would disclose your chosen objectives for the scene and whether or not you feel like you have achieved them, we'll tally up dice and move right along.
So I was trying to convince you that you are fundamentally different from me.
I think you definitely did that.
Yep.
And
God, it feels so dirty.
unsurprisingly, I had the same. I feel like I achieved that too.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you both managed to get one another to show in spades that you were fundamentally different from one another. So that should be 2 dice for both of you. So that puts Leopold at 6-1 and Henri at 4-1 by my count. Fantastic. All right. You guys ready for scene 4? You want to take a break?
I can take a break.
Okay, let's take a break.
Let's go.
Yeah. Short break.
Like 5 minutes.
Break. Yeah. Smoke them if you got them. Refill your drink. Go to the bathroom. Kiss your spouse, etc., etc. Thank you guys for tuning in this evening. I appreciate it very, very much. This has been a really incredibly fun series thus far, and I can't wait to see how this particular match ends up. So stay tuned, and we will be right back. Hello, everybody. I am back from outer space.
Just turn around now.
See that
This is
sad
great.
look on your face. Yeah, you guys are killing it.
Oh man, so intense, so good.
Yeah. This
Like,
game, like I said, it's surprising how much it brings out of you with so little.
Yeah, amazing. I'm
It's-
trying to understand, like, if I'd have felt like that with one of my friends who I know, like, 12 years, I'd be heartbroken. Imagine you knew someone for 500 years and you
Yeah.
had a fight like that, you know? You just feel like, what is my life?
It's hard to even comprehend a lot of what that would do to a person's psyche, living that long for one, but also, like you said, the relationships you develop.
It's like you're only anchored to the world for longer than most people, anyone lives. It's just other person, you know?
Yeah, you've literally seen countries, nations rise and fall in the time that you've been friends with one another. That's something unfathomable to, as far as I know, people who are alive. Cool. You want a moment to finish eating?
Good to go.
Okay, cool. Then we will go ahead and roll right on into scene 4. Since you guys are hot and ready to go, don't want to lose this momentum. All right. Scene 4 is It Doesn't Have to Be This Way. There was a moment when forgiveness was an option, when one approached the other in an attempt to mend old wounds. Who sought this meeting? What event, historical or otherwise, brought it about? In this scene, you have been brought back together on friendly terms, and you remember better times. There is an attempt at making peace, though the sting of the past is still there. Through the scene, it should become apparent that things simply cannot be how they once were. You don't yet know when the time will come, but eventually this relationship will end in the only way it can for an immortal. What happens during this meeting to bring that conclusion ever closer? If you would go ahead and look over your objectives, shoot them my way, and then we'll get rolling.
How do you feel about being in World War II? On other sides, right? Because I'm German, I might have been on the bad side, and also Leopold's a maniac, and you would have been like fighting for the Allies. And I have this thought that like we're like in a town and it gets bombed out, and like we are the ones who wake back up afterwards, you know, obviously because no one else does, and it might be rad, like among the rubble and like our fallen companions and stuff.
That is amazing. Yes. All of the yes. So whereabouts?
Holland, maybe, or like maybe it's the really near the end of the war. Maybe it's in Germany, like just barely.
Yeah.
There's been like an airstrike called in, basically, and like a bunch of troops have just been like destroyed, just utterly destroyed. Like there was miscommunication and just like one of those things that happens, or like an artillery barrage or something, and like our units have been almost entirely dealt with, and I guess we both like would just wake up in the rubble somewhat.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to think as well that it's nighttime, so it's so there's not a source of natural light, so it's this kind of eerie, heavy backdrop, probably with still the sounds of shelling and gunning in the distance, and maybe even flashes of light just on the horizon from the constant combat still going on elsewhere nearby.
Yeah, so Leopold would like he hasn't died in a long time, and it's never easy. It's always a shock, and he'll like rise from like the rubble, and he'll like go to like give his friend a hand, and then like the arm will come free, and he'll just like this man that he's known like maybe 4 or 5 years now, and like drop it back into the rubble and like look around at the ruin, and he'll like spend some time searching through the rubble for his sword, and then eventually like we'll find it slightly bent, and then we'll like pick it up and like place it at his hip, and just begin to like climb out of the building, and like sit at the top and just like stare at the like flashes of explosions in the distance.
And out of the corner of your eye, you see some movement, some ripples on what looks to be a large water fountain, you know, the kind that you can sort of step into and walk around. It's so big. The huge statue in the middle, all shattered and broken, rubble everywhere. And instead of water, with the glow from the horizon, you can see enough that it's darker, a more crimson color, filling the trough. And you see ripples upon the surface, and you notice an arm and a hand hanging over the edge, twitching a bit, and then rising up and grasping onto the edge, and then emerging from the basically the blood the blood fountain is a figure who you surely wouldn't recognize at first, in the darkness and covered completely in blood, but you would know obviously that it is an immortal. And
Yeah,
I think it stumbles forward and just falls flat on the ground and is sort of twitching, you know, writhing around a bit.
Leopold will like go to stand up, and like his ankle is like still twisted despite having been kind of come back from the dead, and he'll like test his weight a little bit, like in the dark, trying to like see if he's like able to fight an immortal at this sort of time, and like wondering if this is the hour in which it all happens. And he'll like look down at the sword, which is like bent towards the end, and think like, of all the times and all the situations, it has to go like this, like unfair, like I'm not ready, this is not okay. And he'll like stand though and like try and straighten up his uniform. It's like partially blown to pieces, and he'll like do his best to like put the collar back together and like say what you want for fascism, but there's beautiful uniforms, they're like very stylish, you know. And he'll like do all that stuff up and like try and look at his most presentable sort of like parade ground look. And once he's done all that, he'll like take out this mirror, which is now cracked, but as much as like it's always cracked, it's never okay. He'll like look into it and like see the state, and like that he's like you know, very stubbly, and like there's like blood, and like he's in bits. So he'll like take some time to take his handkerchief and like dip it into a puddle and like wipe the grime off his face, thinking like he's going to face death, looking well at least. And when that's all done, he'll like begin to slowly like make his way down the rubble. It'll like skitter down past him like gravel and things, like as he moves down towards the fountain.
And as you approach, you hear the spluttering from the figure on the ground, who's still not even sitting up or crouching up yet, still just struggling to get up at all. And as you're picking your way through the rubble, keeping one eye on this figure and looking around, knowing that it's an immortal, looking around to see if it's got a blade in his hand or nearby, and then you spot it. Henri's saber, partially sticking out from some rubble. Well, actually, let's say sticking out from the corpse of a Nazi.
Yeah, Leopold will like freeze when he sees it, and like shake his head at like the cruelty of fate. And we'll walk over and like pull the blade out and like wipe it on the Nazi's uniform, and then like walk over to Henri and like squat down and like hand the sword like handle first. This is yours.
And his blood-covered face, he looks over at it. Fuck me.
Yeah.
He grabs it and lets you help him to his feet using the blade as he grabs the handle. and sort of slumps up onto just sitting, slumps heavily onto some rubble, certainly not getting to his feet. You can see as well that he's missing his wooden prosthetic lower leg that he's worn all these years that you did know him. Changed it and upgraded it to some finer ones over the years. But you see that he's just got it missing at this stage. And
there's like there's a blown out car, like half of it. The front half is entirely gone, like it's been sliced in half. But the two like seats are like miraculously like clean and still there. And so he'll like just like in Acker 450 years ago, he'll like lean down and like pick up Henri and like bring him and like place him in one of the car seats and then sit next to him. And he'll like reach around in his pockets and like pull out a pack of cigarettes and hand one to Henri and one to himself. And he'll like fish for like his beautiful like gold-plated lighter and light the two. And it's maybe like, once again, it feels for a little bit like a comfortable silence as I look at the blood fountain and like the ruin all around and the like thunder of explosions.
Absolutely. And as the blood-stained lips leave what would ordinarily be like a lipstick mark, but of blood instead, that you might otherwise see on a cigarette, Henri can barely lift his arms enough to take a drag, so he sort of leans himself down, and he's struggling to get himself back to life at this point. Between the blood from the fountain that was added to from who knows how many other people, there's no way of telling sort of what wounds he's dealing with right now. And there may be the sounds of shelling and some other noises, but he too feels the familiarity and nostalgia of the silence that they sit in together. And he looks down and sees the cracked mirror sitting on your knee. You didn't get my mother's necklace all those years ago, but you've not let go of that fucking mirror.
No. You know, I'm sorry. I didn't think. It's always been my problem. It should have been you.
How many decades has it been? And you still think that's what it was about? It should have been you with me. Yes, you betrayed me by killing that fucking hillbilly when it was my turn. But thank you. I accept your apology.
I'm going to have to get out of here soon. It's not going well for our boys. Like the nearby artillery strike hits. Always running.
And I think maybe for the first time, he sort of notices the details of your uniform and puts two and two together from your heritage and and what you're wearing and the side that you're fighting on. And he's speechless. He doesn't actually know what to say. I think maybe he sort of their old familiarity comes back where they can sort of sync up enough that you sort of know that he's sort of noticed that from the look that he gave your uniform up and down.
I came back here after the New World. You wouldn't believe it, but I got married. I always told you not to do that. But I got swept up in all this. You know me in war.
Hey, I do. Who is she?
You'd like her, I think. She's a lot like you, actually.
He visibly does that, like, come on, man. Well, I suppose I should be flattered and can take some solace in this, at least. And he sort of, with great effort, turns and sort of actually looks at you now, getting a little bit of his strength back. And he puts a hand on your shoulder, the one with the cigarette, leaving a huge blood print on it, and a couple of the clean spots that you may have tried to make for yourself. Truly, I am happy for you, Leopold.
It wasn't always bad. It was mostly good, I think.
With us? Oh, yeah. Well, good for us. Not so good for the people we killed, the people we hunted, the lovers we left behind.
He'll do that maniac laugh that you would have heard like an actor all those years ago, that like insane, I cannot be killed laugh, at like the ridiculousness of it all, as like more like explosions rock.
And he looks again at your uniform. Is this what you want for the world? You've learned much from me over the years. And I know you. I know your nature, your inclinations, but I do not think even this is for you. So you fight for love, huh? Finally?
Maybe. It wasn't all so bad when it started. It's a different thing now. It's time I left. But then, if I leave her, I get it now. All those times I made you leave cities, leave women behind. I get it.
Yes, many of those were hard to leave, those loves of mine. Loves of sorts. But I assume you're referring to having to leave you behind. That was the true painful one. So yes, it's not easy. But my friend, my Leopold, do not. It is not too late for you to avoid the wrong side of history. I think.
Maybe. He like looks down. He's got all these medals for like bravery and like, I guess because he knows he can't die, he's like done insane charges and like run into destroyed buildings and save people. And he's got all these like crazy medals. I've done a lot of good, I think. Most of the men I serve with are just boys. brought here. But I've killed a lot of your boys. They all look the same after a while, I suppose.
I know what you mean. Look, I know you and I have fought in enough wars to know the difference between the men on the ground doing the killing and the greater, no, not greater, larger is far from great a lot of the time. The larger purpose which drives the war. You, these boys, you do not fight for what this Hitler believes in. You fight for your own lives. You fight for the ones you love, your homes. That's what you should be fighting for. But
I fight because I like to kill, because I'm good at it. I might be the best at it. That's why I fight. It's what I've always fought.
if you're the best, how come I'm still here?
I haven't seen you in a very long time. You've been running from me.
Well, I suppose I cannot deny that. At first, I thought I was putting an ocean between us when I came back to Europe. And here you are.
I thought the same thing.
You remember that feeling on that day in the train carriage? That growing feeling of something coming, something ending. It is too sharp now. It is like the edge of a knife. It's getting very close.
I don't think it will be tonight. I don't want it to be. Plus, my sword is broken, so it wouldn't really be fair. But it will be someday. I hope it's some faraway day.
So do I. But there will only be one of us soon enough. And I think Henri just leans back and his head onto the headrest of the destroyed car and closes his eyes, and as they slip into another old familiar silence as the shelling continues.
I think that he falls asleep, from exhaustion. And while that's happening, Leopold will quietly get up and like a zombie, just walk through this and arrive at an Allied camp and put himself in as a prisoner of war.
Fantastic. I think that's
awesome.
Scene.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, man.
Oh, man.
It is so incredible how different each of these three matches developed. And it always feels organic. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel unnatural in any way. It's so surprising, but I love it.
I love it, yeah. I'm looking forward to maybe playing around more with this system.
It's great. Yep, really good.
Okay. So we have our fifth scene. This scene will...
Did we want to get our dice?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
That's all right.
Your objectives. Let's do that first. I'm just so excited.
So mine was get you to say something admirable about me. I don't know if you said anything admirable, but I feel like there was lots of tenderness. So I don't know if
I feel like you get
so.
That one.
Yeah,
I think even if it was through the lens of, hey, I made you a nicer person. It was still.
There was also a line that you said about how much you missed him.
Right.
And I think that pretty squarely counts as something admirable, because you're not going to miss someone that you don't admire in some way.
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, I'll take it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
So that is 2 dice for Leopold. And you, Keel?
Mine was a nice slam dunk, actually, this time. Get your rival to admit something they did wrong.
Yes, very nice.
I would say, sure.
And it's funny because he didn't necessarily admit it to you, but like the last action was like really heavy admission, right? Like he's like, I'm out of this misery.
Well, and you did admit that it shouldn't have been you that killed Billy Goldtooth.
Yeah. Also that. Yeah, God, I admitted the head out of that scene. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. You gave me the Goldtooth one for free, so I had to draw the Nazi one out of you.
Billy Goldtooth was a Nazi. All right, so I have 8 and 1 for Leopold and 7 and 1 for Henri. I count. Cool. Now, not so preemptively, we will get set up for the 5th scene here. So this scene is going to play just like the rest of them have so far. But at the end of this scene, it leads directly into the prologue, directly into the final moment between the two of you. So this would be the same time, the same place that we discussed previously. This scene is called Who Wants to Live Forever? The final conflict emerges and the rivalry boils over. Memories of the past mean nothing. The hope of peace is gone. And the only possible conclusion can be a final death. No longer friends or allies, you now stand across from an enemy. Where does this duel take place? Does it have special meaning to either of you? When setting this scene, you should reference the prologue of the story as it should correspond with the "we stand upon" declaration. This setting should be inspired by the events that occurred in the last 4 scenes. All the emotion, the passion, and hatred for the entire story culminates here. All key components should come together to form this scene. This is it. After the last sword strike, you have reached the end of the game. So, for one last time, if you gentlemen would please go over the objectives listed there, choose one of them and send it to me. When I have them, you are ready.
All right. So the setting for this one, referencing our prologue statements, is
Stone Quarry.
Yeah, Stone Quarry, abandoned and empty. Time period. Do we want to do another skip towards more present day, since that's sort of when the culmination seems to be happening?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, let's do that. Would it be cool if the quarry was like somewhere that we had been previously? Like it could have been the battlefield, or like, or like maybe it used to be somewhere where we used to live or something.
Yeah, that'll be great. Let's do where Henri used to live in France.
Yeah, like your ancestral lands or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe I've come to reminisce. I'm like in France, and I'm like walking around, and I've like made a little bit of like a detour to like come to. I don't expect you to be here, obviously, but like I can't help myself. There's like a sort of curiosity that comes, and he would like walk around the grounds of like what used to be your house. I'm sure like now somebody else owns it, the estate or whatever. Maybe it's even like a state-owned thing where like it's a museum now or like something like that, you know. And he like walks around it, not expecting you to be there.
Yeah, but as he's walking around, and the late afternoon sun is casting some shadows and throwing its rays upon you. You see, standing on the edge of the quarry, you see Henri standing there with, as always, his sword at his side, wearing, let's say, he's wearing like a coat similar to the style that he would have worn. He's always sort of worn these long coats, I suppose, in the Wild West. He would have had like a, what is it called, like a duster jacket. And back in the French Revolution, he would have had, they had their aristocratic clothes and that kind of thing. So he's got a sort of modern equivalent of that on, with long sleeves and cuffs and things, and collar. And he's standing there, seemingly looking down into the quarry. And I think maybe you arrive at him from sort of a back diagonal. So he probably hasn't spotted you, but you're sure he probably feels your presence.
Yeah, I think that like Leopold is like walking. He's like dressed in a suit, tends to like also tend toward finery. So like a suit with like a fur, like not a fur coat, but like a fur trimmed sort of coat. They've always been rich, and so they've always kind of trended towards that sort of style. And he's like walking, and then like comes to a stop, and he can like feel, and he can see just in the distance, you standing looking down into the quarry. And he like lets out this like shaky sigh. Of course. And then he'll just like walk. He's like incredibly fine, like Italian made leather shoes on the gravel, like as he approaches, and will come and stand next to Henri.
And as you approach, he doesn't lift his head or turn himself to address you as you approach. As you stand next to him, the wind was blowing towards him from where you were. So in addition to the presence of an immortal that he felt and where they are, it can only be you, from the fact that you're here, and you got that familiar scent on the breeze, I suppose, as well. Spending 500 years together, that's not something you forget, that I suppose it would all come flooding back in for him. How smells can be so evocative of memories sometimes. Yeah. And as you come up and stand next to him, you look down, and he's not actually looking down into the quarry. He's standing on the edge looking downward into a necklace in his hand. Familiar necklace from centuries ago that you may not even recognize now.
Leopold will like look down into the quarry and around the place, but like everywhere except Henri, doing that sort of like looking around. And then he'll like do the familiar sort of pat down and like reach into an inside pocket and pull out this like beautiful like metal cigarette case, and like with a flick will open it and just like hand one out in front, and then take one himself and put it back.
And as Henri grabs it without question, he says as he takes the cigarette, "You'll never guess what I found this."
Where?
Somehow made its way back here. I've been here for a few days, reminiscing, and I was watching a bird flitter, dance and play in this huge bowl that it had all to itself, this quarry here. And I saw a glint, and I went down and found this here. This thing is fucking older than I am.
Well, you owe it to me. You said you'd give it to me if I got you out of Acre.
that why you've not killed me yet?
All these years waiting for it.
And he eyes your silver gilded cigarette case and your probably fine clothes and everything like that, your very apparent wealth. Nah. Nothing like a prize that you're owed. So which is it then? Are you here? Are you here for my head? Or will you accept this payment, this debt?
Maybe it's both. I didn't come here to kill you, but now that you're here, he like shakes his head and sort of shrugs. It's coming to that time. Not many left now.
I heard you defected, he says, intentionally avoiding the subject.
Spent a lot of years in a prison camp. I did. Felt right, though. You're right.
Seems I've rubbed off on you after all.
Yeah. Seems like you have. He's going to take out the cracked mirror. He'll like take it out of a pocket, and he'll like hold it out, almost like he's taking a selfie, so they can see the two of themselves in the mirror for a moment. How many paintings did we commission? Do you remember the first time we had a photograph taken?
He flicks his cigarette into the quarry, still lit, while he holds the necklace still in his other hand. And with his now free hand, he reaches into his inside coat pocket and pulls out a piece of parchment or paper or something like that and hands it to you.
You have it.
Of course. I could not have the real you, so, these other memories, these tokens are one thing, but a photograph, a painting of us together before everything happened, before everything went sour.
I always told you were too sentimental. Very French of you. And he'll like chuckle and like put a hand on your shoulder. I cannot do it. This, he like holds the mirror again. This is symbol. It's always been with me, and it cannot survive if I don't, if you don't. Take it.
So have you taken the painting from him? Or
yeah, he would definitely.
Is he offering this? Oh, okay, yeah. So you've accepted the painting. Okay, yeah, he'll accept the mirror, and with it still open, he'll just sort of turn it in his hand and inspect it, and hold it outward like he had sort of selfie mode, so we can see both of us in it. I wonder how much you've spent in replacing this broken thing, replacing the glass and the silver.
It's been broken more times than it's been fixed, I think. So much bad luck just followed me around. And yet I seem to be unusually lucky. All those bullets seem to miss me.
And the ones that don't never last long, do they? And I think his hand would actually start to tremble a bit. You would see as he's holding the mirror out, his hand's trembling. And he snaps it shut. I imagine it's like one of those ones, like a clamshell, but not quick enough for you to have noticed.
Will it be here? He like looks at the quarry, like the setting sun.
I think, and he turns to you to add sort of weight to the words with a bit of a grin. Half a millennia, well, more, has led to this. I think it will be tonight.
He scratches his head. I think it's nearly 800 years. Can that be?
Yes, as he calculates in his head. Yes, I suppose you're right.
Sort of shakes his head like that's unbelievable, although he knows it to be true. Down in the quarry, up here.
Why put it off, huh? I think as he tucks the mirror into his inside pocket to replace the photograph, a downgrade, if you will. This one will only work when we're both standing together. The one that he's handed you is always that way. And he wheels around, takes a few steps away from you, and as he draws his saber, not holding it out towards you, just holding it downwards loosely. And he throws the necklace from his other hand, throws that over right towards you, forcing you to either catch it or let it go into the quarry, I suppose.
He'll let it go, and he'll like look up. And he'll like take the photograph and like hold it up and look at it. And then he'll like rip it in half. And then like into quarters, and he'll like into the quarry. And he'll like crack his neck. Not fair that one of us should have a picture of both. If it's you, you'll have the mirror.
With tears welling up in his eyes, he just says, across the way, breeze blowing, sun setting, thank you. And cracks his own neck, levels his gaze at you, and steps forward with a thrust to basically start the duel.
All right. So,
it's so heavy.
God.
Oh man.
So, if you gentlemen would please disclose what your chosen objective was, and whether or not you think you accomplished it.
So I was trying to convince you to destroy something that we cared about, which is the mirror, but it survives.
You did indeed.
It did. I had the same, and you happily tore up the photograph. Happily, in terms of getting more dice.
Yes. So that is 4 dice for Henri, bringing your total, if I am not mistaken, to 11 dice. And Leopold, though you did not earn any normal dice for that scene, you earn hatred dice in the amount that Henri earned. So that should bring you up to 8 dice and 5 hatred on my count.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. So, in the final moment, before this sword strike, both of the players will choose to either harness or release their hatred. You will recount the prologue. You will then score your dice and roll to win the duel as described. No ties can occur in this setting. If the dice result in a tie, the duel continues and the dice are rolled again. We will repeat this until there is a clear winner. Hatred dice. So the way that dice rolling and hatred dice works is thusly. You will take your dice pool, your normal dice, and you're going to roll those. And you are going to score them by the highest value shown throughout the whole pool. And secondarily, you'll take how many of that value that you got. So if you end up with 3 6s, then you're going to say, I got 6s. And then if the other person also got 6s, then you'll go to how many that you have. Hatred. If you roll your hatred dice, if you choose to keep your hatred dice, you get to roll those and add it to your pool. However, the highest number out of your hatred dice becomes the new maximum value that you can have. So there's a little bit of a gamble about whether or not to use them. So if you guys are clear on how that's supposed to work, you go ahead and tell us whether you're going to harness your hatred or whether you're going to let it go before the final duel.
Definitely no hatred for Henri.
Yeah, I like mechanically maybe it's good too, but I also think there's actually no hate. Like he doesn't hate him at all. He like loves him, you know. So I'm gonna say no. He'll let it go. I think it's just like necessary rather than like I don't think either of them wants to be there.
Sure, absolutely. I think that makes total sense with the story that you guys have built. So we're here. The final moment. Recount the prologue, if you would, the same as we did beginning the game, and then we'll roll some dice.
I do not remember what I said.
I've got it written down. I can do it all if you like. Our paths first crossed when the heathen took Acre, the holy city. Now we stand upon a stone quarry, abandoned and empty. Leopold remembers when Henri was hopeful and kind to him. This feud started when Leopold denied Henri what was rightfully his. Your name is Leopold, and you are heartbroken, and you are here for my head. My name is Henri Manet. I am at my end, but the prize will still be mine. There can be only one.
There can be only one.
Yes. All right. Gentlemen, please have your dice ready and roll when you're ready. This is tense.
Okay, I have 2 6s.
I have 5s.
Oof. Okay, so between the two of you, you can decide how this scene plays out.
Maybe there's like not much of a duel at all.
Maybe. What do you think of especially since Leopold released his hatred, or didn't harbor any hatred for Henri, and his life has been, killing and winning and being better and better, and being the best. And in contrast, Henri has lived a life for love and relationships and for the enjoyment and for purpose, greater purpose than killing others. And we've seen through the story that that Henri's sort of philosophy and softness, as Leopold has put it many times, and tenderness has rubbed off on Leopold quite a lot. And so, yeah, if that's where you were going with it, maybe as we saw Henri step forward and make a sort of forward thrust, expecting Leopold to parry it and then the duel to be on, maybe it just pierced Leopold's chest. And do you want to take it for a moment from there?
Yeah, that's perfect. I think like he like ripped up up the picture and like threw it away because he knew that Leopold or that Henri wouldn't be able to like make a move. He wouldn't be able to like attack. But like that last moment of like heartbreak and like anger maybe was enough to like put him over the edge. And he maybe just stands there and like accepts it. It like goes through into the chest and he like looks down and then looks up. And like there's probably like blood in his teeth and like running down his mouth, but he'll like try like a weak smile.
And Henri just looks utterly shocked, but doesn't want to drag this out. So again, that familiarity that they have from so many centuries together, he may have misread the situation going in, but now in this instant he sees it for what it is, and he pulls his saber from Leopold's chest and with a swipe takes off his head. And I think he would, like you said, this was out of necessity, not out of any hatred, or it's a tragedy that it had to come to this, basically. So Henri would just drop his saber from his hand, drop to his knees, and just openly wail, I think. I won't get too much more macabre into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we see the storm kind of rolling in, the storm clouds gathering overhead as Henri is about to accept this quickening, even though he is weeping openly. Well, guys, that's it. Man, this was fantastic. You guys did such a great job. And again, just you took it in such an unexpected direction. And it still didn't feel forced. It didn't feel hacked or anything. It was natural and it was organic and it just felt right. And you guys just told a beautiful and tragic
so tragic.
Yeah, miserable.
Do you mind if I just do a very brief sort of epilogue, to maybe leave on not quite a down note?
Sure, please go ahead.
I think maybe after the storm rolls in and the quickening, the lightning strikes Henri, and he receives the quickening from Leopold, which doesn't he get all of Leopold's sort of memories and knowledge and things like that as well. So
yes, that
is even a closeness that even he hadn't felt while they were both alive. And then I like to think he goes down into the quarry, sees the necklace that wasn't meant to be the payment from the original debt, sees it there and leaves it there. He doesn't want to pick that up, but he does spend the next day or two finding all 4 ripped pieces of the photograph to carry with him until someone takes his own head.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, guys. Awesome. Well, gentlemen, if you would like, you can do an outro before we put a bow on this and call it a done thing. So reversing order, Lloyd, why don't you go ahead?
I did so much trash talking before this game. I like called Keel a wimp 100 times, and it's just in my nature. But I'm actually really glad that it ended the way it did. I think it's like really fitting. and I wasn't expecting it to be like so tender or so like sweet. You know, it was like it felt like a film just about like friendship and like love, which was great. Yeah, thanks very much, Jeremy, and thanks, Kale. It's very enjoyable. Your LDM, etc.
Absolutely, man. It was an absolute pleasure. This was, of all of the ones to go sweet and tender, this leading up to this one, that was not what I was expecting in the least. So it was a very, very pleasant surprise. Even just to know that the game is set up in such a way that that's even a possibility is a joy. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Keel.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great how sort of, I suppose, open to interpretation, yet simple and streamlined the few mechanics are, and it just really sort of sets things up in the right way and gets out of the way to just let sort of the fiction unfold organically. So that's great. Thanks so much for having me. I can't believe I'm going through the next round. It was amazing playing this session, seeing how it all unfolded, and teasing it all out with you, Lloyd. Sorry for it was well worth it, but sorry for taking it to such a deep place. It was so enjoyable though, and I'm definitely gonna listen back to it, I think, sometime over the next week. Look at it at a different light, maybe. And thanks so much, Jeremy, for letting me be a part of this and facilitating it. And I look forward to playing with you both more. And thanks so much for everyone who's tuned in. We've had quite a bit of an audience there cheering us on and enjoying how things unfolded. So thanks for that. And I do have, at the moment, a nice clean slate YouTube channel, which I'll give a link to Jeremy so he can include it in the comments, because I'm intending to start putting up some content on there. Thanks.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to see what you're going to do. You're a fantastic player. I've had the opportunity to play alongside you once now, and now running a game for you, though it was a little different than normal. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting some other gaming into you, in with you, as well as seeing what you're going to put out on your channel. So thank you guys very, very much for playing in this. This is definitely kind of an odd concept, and I'm really happy that there were enough people that kind of decided to give it a chance to actually facilitate it being a thing. Finding 8 players who agree with a game that's set in a television universe or a movie universe that's 30 years old is not always the easiest thing to do. So I've been very, very happy, not just that there were enough people, but also the caliber of player that I've managed to collect. You guys have all been fantastic. There's been 3 wonderful matches so far, and I can't wait to see what the rest bring. So yeah, this has been match number 3 for the Highlander tournament using the Reflections game system. And session 4, match 4, will take place on November the 30th, if I'm not mistaken. Same bat time, same bat channel. Our 2 Immortals that time around will be Caius. I always mispronounce his name. Caius Wallen and Jeff Doty. And then in December, more than likely, and probably bleeding into January, we will get into round 2 and then the finale after that. Very much looking forward to seeing how this all washes out. And thank you, everybody who has tuned in to the previous ones, as well as this one, maybe watching in the future. You guys are fantastic. And until next time, may your dice roll high and your snacks always be within reach.